The X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. Email xzone at xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv at hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. The X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern on the Talkstar Radio Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, Star Cable, and our growing family of broadcast affiliates right across Canada, the United States, Central America, the Caribbean, South America, the Pacific Rim, Asia, India, Africa, and Europe. My guest this hour is Daniel Friedmann. We're going to be talking to Daniel about the Genesis 1 code. And the older and more knowledgeable we get, the more likely we are to seek explanations from both science and the supernatural for our biggest questions. And according to, and this is according to a new psychology study, science and religion coexist harmonically, in the minds of most people. They are not competing domains, says engineering physicist Daniel Friedmann, the author of the Genesis 1 code. And this shows how science and religion agree on the timeless timelines for development of the universe and the appearance of life on Earth. Joining me now is Daniel Friedmann. And Daniel, welcome to the X Zone. Congratulations on a great book.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Tell us, what was your inspiration into writing the Genesis 1 code?
Basically, I've had the question myself for a long time, which is right, the scientific explanation of our origins or the biblical explanation of our origins? Mm-hmm. But what really brought it home in the last few years is my nephews and nieces that became teenagers, went back to school, and had all the same questions I had at the time. And, of course, today, with our much higher knowledge from a scientific point of view, those questions became even more and more relevant. And in an attempt to answer those questions and to do the research and eventually to get to the conclusions I got to, I ended up writing the book.
Why do you think it's so necessary in today's time and age that the question about creation that has been boggling our minds since the beginning of recorded history, since the recording of time, it seems to be so important to everyone?
Yeah, it's getting more and more important, and I think it's because we're learning more and more. We had an amazing scientific advances, and we all see the Hubble Space Telescope pictures, and read about all these amazing number of stars and black holes and so on. And at the same time, most people in the Western world have been brought up with some kind of creation narrative, particularly from Genesis, which at first blush to most seems to be quite different and contradictory. And this, of course, has led to the famous kind of creation-evolution debate, as you mentioned, has been going on forever. Still an issue in the presidential election in the States. So the stories are getting more and more apart. And because they're getting more and more apart, and the polls show that people are still fundamentally trying to have a foot in both camps. People do not want to dismiss the biblical story. Over 85% of the U.S. population, that's the numbers I have, believe that God has been involved in some shape or form in creation. only 15% believe in only natural evolution. But nonetheless, despite those 85%, more than half believe that maybe the process that God used was evolutionary. So you can see the integration going on between science and religion there.
Do you think today's society has outgrown the need for religion?
I would almost say the opposite. From my observations, there seems to be a move back to spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's religion or not, but the more technologically advanced we get, the more popular a lot of spirituality type of things, not just religion, but yoga and other things become. So, if anything, we seem to be pushing in both directions somehow.
All right, stand by, Daniel. You and I have to take our first 2-minute commercial break. Exo Nation, Daniel Friedmann is our special guest. He is the author of, now do you have your pencils and paper ready? I'm sure you do, the Genesis 1 Code. His website is www.genesis1code.com, and that's the word O-N-E code.com. We'll be back on the other side of this 2-minute break. Don't go away. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Hi everyone, Rob McConnell here, and I wanted to spend a moment on internet streaming. Everybody has heard about internet streaming, but not many know much about it. Did you know the internet streams just about everything?
Movies.
From new releases to old classics.
TV shows.
Almost every show, every episode, and much more. But the question has always been, how do you do it? Well now, thanks to the folks at 123 Ready TV, I have the answer for you. They have developed a simple program app, 123 Ready TV, that you install on your Windows PC, Android smartphone, or Android tablet that can have you streaming like a pro in less than 5 minutes. You truly won't believe how much is available or how easy it is to do until you try. And for a one-time cost of only $19.99, this product is a real winner. To learn more about 123 Ready TV, visit our website at www.xzbn.net.
Hello, I'm Justina Marsh, and with my dad Pete, we are going to present a new show called Too Good to Be True. Together, we are aiming to discover more truths about this world and beyond. Do you have unanswered questions about the world? Do you ever wonder about aliens, conspiracy theories, or the universe? There are many shows discussing subjects such as pyramids or UFOs, but we want to relay this information based on our own research, including from spiritual means. Hopefully, listeners will be helped with their own beliefs and will appreciate the psychic insights that add to the previous research and information. We both look forward to sharing this insight and beginning this journey with our listeners. Visit xzbn.net for more information about when to listen.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. Daniel Friedmann is my special guest this hour. He is the CEO of MDA, an aerospace company in Canada, which, among other things, specializes in robotics used on the International Space Station. He has a master's in engineering, physics, and 30 years' experience in the space industry. He has published more than 20 peer-reviewed scientific papers on space industry topics. He is also a longtime student of cosmology and religion, and he is the author of a great book, The Genesis 1 Code, at www.genesis1code.com, and that's Genesis, O-N-E, code.com. Being part of the space industry, which is really high tech, compared to cosmology and religion, which is based on belief, how do the two tie together?
Well, that's the interesting part. I mean, in the space industry, of course, a lot of what we do relates to looking at the cosmos. So I live every day with the reality that we can see what's going out in the cosmos. In fact, we can see, because light takes time to travel, we can see back 12 billion years in time when we look through the Hubble Space Telescope and see what things were like back then. At the same time, my religious studies point to an Earth being created 6,000 years ago. So it certainly brings the whole question of science and religion and our origins into complete focus, demanding some kind of an integration and an answer.
So in your opinion, does science ever corroborate religion or vice versa?
Absolutely. In fact, my whole book is about that. I tell the understanding from science about how the universe and life came to be, and then I take the understanding from religion, well, at least the Abrahamic religions from Genesis, how the world and life came to be, and you know what I did is I discovered something quite remarkable, that there is an incredible agreement on what happened and when it happened. So what meaning like, you know, the first life or the sun, and when meaning like 4.5 billion years ago for the sun. There isn't an agreement on how it happened. That's different. The explanation in science and the explanation in religion is different, and of course why. And in fact, that's once you agree on what happened and when it happened, and you see that the two work together, you can shed a lot of light on the how. And I think you can see that religion enlightens science and vice versa. There's many examples of that I go over in the Genesis 1 code.
You know, there seems to be a lot of debate even between members of the scientific community about what really happened at the beginning. What do you believe in your heart of hearts, based on the research that you've done, started all of our existence, started life here on this planet? Was it the Big Bang?
Okay, so this is the very interesting part. In science, we know what happened very, very detailed and very precisely from right after the beginning until today. We have a 14 billion year history of what happened, how the galaxies developed and the stars developed and our solar system developed and everything else. We understand it very well. We can actually see it in pictures. But we don't understand what happened right at the beginning, because we cannot see that, we cannot experiment and reproduce that. And in fact, the mathematical theory, which is the Big Bang theory, doesn't give us an answer for the very, very beginning. It gives us an answer for everything else, but at the beginning, there's some kind of magical explosion. On the religion account, what you will find, and we need to get into a little bit more detail, but we are told in the Bible how things are happening. We are told when, quote unquote, a miracle or a divine intervention is taking place, and when things are evolving naturally through the forces of nature. And it turns out that in the cosmological account of the Bible, which is the first 4 days of creation in Genesis, day 1 through 4, everything in that account is a natural occurrence of cause and effects of physical laws, except the beginning. The account clearly states that in the beginning there was a divine act, out of nothing, something was made. After that, it says clearly, you will understand it all if you study physics. There's no arguments, but you will not understand the beginning. And that's precisely what we don't understand today. And there's two other events related to life that have the same situation.
Which are?
The making of the species and the human soul. Those are the three acts: the very beginning, the different species, and the human soul, that the Bible clearly tells us are divine acts of creation, and the definition of creation is something out of nothing. So it's like a magician pulling a rabbit out of the air.
Sure.
every other act is an act of formation, I'm translating, of course, from the original Hebrew into the English, which is not as rich, but an act of formation is making something from something else, making a table out of wood, making a star out of hydrogen, and so on. And those acts of formation are all done in a natural cause and effect. Now, how do we know that? Because the Bible uses different names for God throughout the Bible. In English, we see Lord, King, Father, and so on. In the Hebrew, it's very specific names with very specific meaning. And whatever name is being used is the name that is acting. So if you call me an engineer, you would expect me to act in a professional manner, methodical, and so on. If you call me dad, I go to pieces and I do whatever you tell me.
Exactly.
So God is the same. He has different names. And he's got the engineer name in the whole of chapter 1 of Genesis, except for those 3 events that are divine. So we should understand it.
As an engineer, as a scientist, as a physicist, how do you prove there's a human soul?
Oh, that's a whole other story. Now we're jumping to life. So I don't have any way to prove there's a human soul, but I can go to the Bible and it tells me that the fact that humans have a human soul, animals have a soul too, it's an animal soul, but humans have an animal soul too. You know, we can behave like animals pretty easily, but we have a divine component to our soul. It's called a divine soul that's different than any other creature.
Yeah, but don't forget the Bible was written by humans, not by God himself. So is it possible that it wasn't God who created life, but it was life who created God in order to answer questions that mankind at the time never had the answers to, or the ability to find the answers except through mythological folklore?
That's the age-old questions, of course, and that would be possible. However, what if you want to stick to proofs and engineering, what I do in my book is I go to the Bible and I extract from the Bible, strictly from the Bible, not using anything else, 20 events, made the sun, first life. And I have a very, very simple formula, which is again derived from the Bible, that converts those creation time events to what we measure in science, or scientific time, and they match. Now, that's an impossible coincidence. No human that wrote the Bible, and I'm not suggesting that humans wrote the Bible, but if a human had written the Bible, there's no way they could have gotten that right.
I'm saying that humans wrote the Bible.
Okay.
They
couldn't have gotten that right. They couldn't have gotten 13.7 billion years right, 4.5 billion years right. In fact, when they wrote it, if they wrote it, that was not the belief at all.
But being a scientist, a physicist, how can you base your entire theory or your entire work based on a book to which there's no physical proof?
Well, what I'm doing is I am going to peer-reviewed science, and I am taking that at face value, because I'm very smart people put that science together, and I'm saying that science tells us how old the universe is, how old the sun is, when life first came to be, all of those things. So 20 facts, straightforward facts that today are not disputed. I am then going to the scriptures in a scientific way, and I'm saying, okay, I'm going to take them at face value. They claim they came from God, and what do those scriptures say about those same 20 events? And it matches. The time when those events happened and what those events were match. Furthermore, in the 3 places where the scriptures tell us you will not understand things scientifically, we don't today. Now, some will argue we might tomorrow, but today we don't understand those 3 things. We understand everything else.
What happens 100 years from now? Science develops new theories and quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and they take a look at the Bible and say, you know what, this is all myth, legend, folklore.
Well, they've already done that.
Okay, so, how can we, as a human race, put so much faith in a book to which there is no actual proof?
Well, I mean, part of my book, and it's not the whole answer, but part of my book is to show you that, the best way we have of proving something is we go and measure it, right? And we go and look at it. So I just took the Bible from a scientific point of view, and I says, okay, it says right here in this paragraph that the sun appeared at this time. Now, is that what I can see from science? And the answer is yes. It coincides. And it coincides for a raft of other events. So, no, how could that be right? Like, how could anybody get that right unless they have divine foreknowledge? I mean,
well, don't we have to establish what divine foreknowledge is before we can give it any credibility?
Well, what I'm saying is that there's a book. Those people that follow that book called the Bible claim it is correct.
Right.
I've analyzed it, and I've compared to other people who have written a different book, which is a bunch of scientific papers, which is the story of creation or the development of the universe from a scientific point of view. And I am detached from both. I try to be detached from both, and people say that I've accomplished that in the book. Obviously, I have a bias myself, but I try to take that out of the book in the Genesis 1 code, and I just compare them.
All right, stand by. We've got to take. Stand by. We've got to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Daniel Friedmann is our guest of this hour, Exonation. He's the author of the Genesis 1 Code. www.genesis1code.com. That's Genesis, O-N-E, code.com. My name's Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. We'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as we continue from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Hi everyone, Rob McConnell here, and I wanted to spend a moment on internet streaming. Everybody has heard about internet streaming, but not many know much about it. Did you know the internet streams just about everything?
Movies.
From new releases to old classics.
TV shows.
Almost every show, every episode, and much more. But the question has always been, how do you do it? Well now, thanks to the folks at 123 Ready TV, I have the answer for you. They have developed a simple program app, 123 Ready TV, that you install on your Windows PC, Android smartphone, or Android tablet that can have you streaming like a pro in less than 5 minutes. You truly won't believe how much is available or how easy it is to do until you try. And for a one-time cost of only $19.99, this product is a real winner. To learn more about 123 Ready TV, visit our website at www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back, everyone. Daniel Friedmann is our special guest of this hour. He's written a book that I'm sure is going to shake up a lot of people. And with Christmas time coming, this is the type of book that if you have somebody that's into science, if you have someone that's into cosmology, if you have someone who's into understanding the paranormal, this is the type of book that they would really appreciate getting for Christmas. It's called The Genesis 1 Code. Daniel Friedmann is the author, and Daniel's website is www.genesisoncode.com. That's Genesis1code.com. Going back to the scientific values that you discuss in your book and how you tie the two together, Daniel, how do we explain the cast of characters in the Bible? For example, the Bible talks about the creation of man, Adam and Eve, and then how their families prospered and they set around the world. My question to you is, if God created Adam and Eve, wouldn't everybody around the world look the same?
I don't see why. I mean, we know today that we are made of a DNA, and that DNA mutates and adapts to different situations like hot climates, darker skin, and so on, and less food, smaller people, and more food, larger people. And we understand today that whatever we're made of is such that it adapts to all these different things, and we expect the differences, not just in humans, but in all life.
So tell me, do you think that we were created by accident, by chance?
Me personally, after having researched all this and looked at the scientific side and the biblical side, no, I think there was divine intervention, at least when it comes to our soul. Our body could have been done in a very similar way to other animals, but it's pretty clear that we're different than animals, and that difference comes from the thing we call a soul.
If we were created on purpose, even the soul, all right?
Yeah.
Are there life forms on other planets that have the same soul that we have?
Okay, well, that's beyond the scope of my research, but of course science doesn't have a definitive answer for that, and at least my understanding of the Bible is there's just no definitive answer there for that either.
So based on that, are you saying that your book is only based on earthlings?
My book is based on looking at what we know in science and what the Bible says at face value, and comparing and contrasting that. And so I didn't go into extraterrestrials because, frankly, I just don't have any information definitive one way or another. But we do know that we exist today. We know what we're like. We know how long we've been around, 200,000 years. We know there are a whole pile of other things before us. That knowledge we have, and we have a lot of description of the creation on this planet in the Bible.
All right,
so that's what I can work with.
All right, but let's say that you're correct, and that a God created us. Where did this God come from? If he didn't come from this planet, where did he come from?
I don't have a good answer for that. All I can say is that God is claimed by the people that have passed the Bible down through thousands of years to have done 20 acts.
Yeah, I know we've talked about this a couple of times, but
but that's all I can tell you.
But does it make sense that if there is this God who no one has ever seen, that if he created life on this planet, that he would have created life on other planets, not even if the life, but the souls that you say that he created? Doesn't that make sense into a logical mind?
No, it's not obvious to me. Like, we first of all, we're made in God's image, so the best way to try and get any glimpse at all at that is to look at ourselves. And when we make something, we make something. When we decide to go to the moon, we decide to go to the moon. We don't decide to go everywhere else, or and so on.
So if we're made in God's image, then we ourselves are God.
No, that's not the definition of God's image in the Bible.
Well, how do you explain it then?
Okay, well, the way it's explained in the Bible is that image means that we have free choice, whereas other animals do not have free choice.
So why was it written that we were created in his image if that's not what he meant at all?
Well, you see, we have English translation back from Greek, back from Hebrew, and all of these words, even the word God is not right in the translation because, as I mentioned a little earlier, there's several names used for God, so you always have to say which name is it. Is it Mr. Engineer, Mr. Father, Mr. Miracle? Which one is it? So one has to look at that in the full context, and I explain, I don't go into a lot of that in the Genesis 1 code, but I do have one chapter that explains how, just like I explain how scientists get to answers, I explain how people that study theology get to answers, and it's not the image we have from Sunday school. You just read a text that doesn't make a lot of sense and has some weird old English words in it. It's way more quote unquote scientific than that. And
all right. So if I understand, the original Bible was written in Greek?
In Hebrew.
In Hebrew.
And what the Bible, meaning the Old Testament we're talking Genesis. I'm not talking about the Bible and in the definition of the New Testament and so on. I'm talking about the creation story. The very first chapter in the very first book of Genesis was originally written in Hebrew, and then translated to Greek and so on. And then it's just
if I'm not mistaken, it was Moses who wrote the book of Genesis.
That's what it says right in the book. Yeah.
And this is the same Moses who took the Israelites out of Egypt.
Right.
And isn't it also believed by theologists today that Christ himself and the beginning of Genesis came out of Egypt, that it didn't come out of Israel?
I don't have that knowledge, no.
Oh, okay.
I can't answer
Okay. So, if there is this divine entity called God, is he still around?
That's what the Bible says, yes. Around and active.
I often wonder if humans created God, because we live in a binary world, or a binary existence, zeros and one, up, down, in, out, right, wrong, wet, dry, good, evil, heaven, hell, God, Satan. And many times people use God and Satan as excuses for their actions. So is it possible that throughout history we've been using these entities, these beings, as scapegoats for our own failures, as well as because some people have a problem accepting praise for the work they've done or acknowledging the great things they've done? They say, thank God for this, thank God for that. God made me do it.
That's separate as to whether God exists or doesn't exist. I think we as human beings are really, really good at trying to, unfortunately, project things outside of us. I mean, we spend a lot of our life blaming our parents, never mind God, for things going right or wrong. So that's just a human nature issue that happens irrespective of whether there's an existence of another divine being.
All right, if God is still around today, why isn't he still creating?
Well, we can look at things and say it's all running like a clockwork.
Oh, I disagree. I think it sucks. I think there's more flaws. I think there's more flaws in this world than could ever be imagined by anyone.
Well, we look at nature, and it looks pretty amazing. And you watch a baby being born or a kitten being born, it's pretty amazing. Yeah, once we get into the act with our fabulous free will and we start shooting at each other, it gets pretty ugly. But the natural things, if you go out in the mountains and you see what's going on with the butterflies in the mountains and so on, it's pretty amazing. And frankly, we don't understand it all still. It's not all that simple.
If we can't understand the simple things in life, how is it that we're so hell-bent on to try and understand the most complicated things in life, such as our creation and a mythological or hypothetical or believable God?
Well, that's part of that little crazy soul we have. We have this incredible need to explore and to understand and to comprehend those things, which is, we spend billions of dollars trying to go to Mars. There's all kinds of other little problems in our backyard.
Exactly.
But that's human nature. That's what we're talking about right now.
If I was a God, and Lord knows I'm not, and I don't profess to be, but if I had created something like this planet, the people on it, all the life forms on it, and I saw the hunger, the sorrow, the disease, the wars, I would do something about it. And yet, this God has sat still since the creation of man and has only given himself the views by a very select few. And yet you look at other cultures, Greek mythology, for example. The Egyptians, they had over 220 gods. So how do we know that this God that we're talking about this hour in the Genesis 1 code is the real God?
Well, there's two statements you made. You would do something about it. I'll get back to that. About the real God. My only approach to that is that, if I tell you that I built that house across the street, and then I say, and here are my plans. These are the plans that I used to build the house. You could say, well, look, I don't really know if you built the house or not. Maybe I didn't tell you. Maybe I died a long time ago, and I just left you a letter saying, look, I built the house across the street, and here are the plans.
Yeah.
How are you going to test that? We can have all these intellectual discussions, and there's literally thousands of books in the market that have these intellectual discussions. They didn't satisfy me, so I don't want to argue their points. What I did is I took those plans, and I went to that house. So the Genesis, it's told in the sources, is the blueprint of creation. So they're the plans.
Right.
I took the plans and I said, do the plans match the house? Does Genesis match the universe? And the answer I got was an unequivocal yes. And that's as far as I can get.
Okay.
I don't have an answer for what is God, but I said, look, he told me this is the plan.
All
I
right.
checked the plan.
Okay, I understand where you're going. You did you did your work very diligently. But let's use that metaphor that you just used about building the house.
Okay.
You come up with the plans, you tell me that you built the house, and I go to see the house. Did you actually go to where creation was supposed to have started in the Middle East?
Sorry, say it again?
I said, did you actually go to where creation, the Garden of Eden, was believed to have been in the Middle East when you were doing your research?
I have been to that area, yes.
Yeah. And what did you find?
I didn't find the Garden of Eden.
And yet it's in the plans.
No, the plans said that all that was changed. It existed at that time, and in my research, I have checked, given that there's plate tectonics or all the continents around where those continents were, and they were in the equator. They weren't in the North Pole, so you could have had a pretty decent garden.
Sure.
And so on and so forth. But that part is not there. I went to check the things that are still there. He said he made the sun. Well, the sun's there.
It sure is.
He said they made the sun in day 4. That's 4.5 billion years ago. That's what science says. He said he made first life in the waters. We have come to that conclusion scientifically. He said he made that life 3.5 billion years ago. Science has come to the same conclusion. And so forth for many events. That's what I went to check.
So you've
I
done
cannot go check on Adam. Adam's not around.
You've done your homework. No two ways about it, and I applaud you for that. But how come there are so many other religions if there's only one God? Or did God have brothers and sisters?
No, there's no collaboration of that in the Bible.
But once again, you're talking about the collaboration in the Bible. When you look at Greek mythology, when you look at the Egyptian history, it's totally different from that found in the Bible. You and I have to take our final break. We'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as the X Zone continues with Daniel Friedman. His website is www.genesis1code.com, and he's the author of The Genesis 1 Code. We'll be back. Don't go away.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Hello, I'm Pete Marsh. With my daughter Justina, we will be presenting the new radio show, Too Good to Be True. If something seems too good to be true, it usually is. But with the help of Justina's amazing gifts, we're going to gain insight into questions that don't yet have complete answers. Have you wondered who built Stonehenge and for what reason? Why are crop circles found in the same region as Stonehenge and elsewhere? Are crop circles a hoax, or are they created with technologies that we have little knowledge of? Who built the pyramids in Egypt and also in other countries? How and why were they built? Was the Titanic switched with the Britannic as part of a gigantic insurance fraud, or for more insidious reasons? What caused the Tunguska event when trees were flattened over an 800 square mile area in Siberia? Will the new insights be too good to be true? Well, that will depend on what you are prepared to believe. Please join us as we start on this journey together. For more information on Too Good to Be True, visit www.xzbn.net.
Dreams are our personal gateways into infinite wisdom. Don't miss shamanic counselor and indigenously trained dream decoder Sandra Corcoran's inspiring book, Shamanic Awakening Between the Dark and the Daylight. This remarkable work chronicles Sandra's 35 years of experience with diverse wisdom keepers and her initiations throughout the Americas and across the British Isles, Turkey, Greece, and Egypt. Sandy's knowledge of symbology, psychology, and myth influence her dream blog and workshops. Sandy offers private tarot readings, international journeys, a meditative CD, as well as her book, Shamanic Awakening, to encourage you as you navigate this earth walk, creating a deeper connection to yourself and all that is. Find this and more at Sandy's website, starwalkervisions.com.
Daniel Friedmann is my guest this hour. He is the author of Genesis 1 Code. His website is www.genesis.code. First of all, Daniel, as I told you during the break, it's been great having you with us. I have enjoyed this conversation immensely. I wish you the best of success with your book. But what would you like people to walk away with? What would you like them to learn, take from your book at the end?
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for asking that question. You know, what I'd like people to do is that we have a very thorough, excellent scientific body of knowledge derived in a very systematic way, which by and large is right, and a huge proportion of our population dismisses it because they look at the Bible and says it doesn't agree with it. We also have a very rich heritage, and I know there's a lot of religions, but I'm sticking with the one I know about, Judaism and Christianity and Islam that relies on Genesis to different extents. And they also have some really smart guys who have been around for thousands of years off and on, and they've done a lot of studying. And what I try to do in my book, and what I challenge other people to do, is to look at both bodies of knowledge and learn from each. And I think you will find, like I found in an extraordinary trip, that they enlighten each other, that they don't contradict themselves that much. They do some places. But if we're going to get to the answer to our most basic question of our origins, we need all the help we can get. We can't just go with one side or the other. We need to look at both sides, and we need to try and integrate it. And other people that know other religions can bring that along.
You know, a lot of people ask the question, why are we here? Do we really need the answer to that question?
Boy, I definitely do every morning.
Why? You know, it's not going to change anything. You still have to go to work. You still have to pay your bills. You still have to pick the kids up. You still have to cut the lawn. What will it change?
Well, you know, when I come to work, I really put everything into it. And I think it makes a difference. And I think it's important to, in my case, employ other people and give other people a chance to do things and advance things to make our life better. And I'm sure everybody else has that. If I just came to work to get money to buy food tonight, to wake up tomorrow morning, I think I'd die.
Why?
Because there's no meaning or purpose to that at all. I'm just trying to stay alive. What is the point of that?
All right, but on the other side of the coin, if you knew where we came from, and let's say 100 years from now, or even next week, something comes along that says, hey, you know what? We can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that all this is just sheer accident. What happens then? How does that change your life?
That's a big problem.
Why? You still have to go to work. You still have to pay your bills. You still have the hydro company to pay. You still have Bell Canada to pay. It changes nothing.
True. That's true. So, you know, there's two aspects to us. There's the animal aspect. You know, we have to eat, and we do what we need to eat. And then there were, as we've spoken about our human soul that wants to go to the moon and wants to know where we are and wants to love the kids and so on.
We're running out of time very fast, but when we talk about going to the moon, we went there, spent all that money for what? Nothing.
Well, we found out how old the moon is. We found out a lot about how the solar system and the Earth was made. We're part of the way to the answer to our origins.
Wow. All right. Thank you very much, Daniel. Nice talking to you. Congratulations. Exo Nation, our guest this hour has been Daniel Friedmann. And once again, he is the author of Genesis 1 Code. I don't know. How would your life change if tomorrow you received a call where it was all over CNN and other news outlets that, you know what, scientists have proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that creation was all by chance, that there is no divine intervention? Would that change your life? I'll tell you something, it wouldn't change mine. I'd still have to come to work the next day. My name's Rob McConnell. This is The X Zone. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as we continue from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Whatever you do, don't go away. We'll be back. Don't.